Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Minecraft Mythbusting, the show where we take myths and rumours about the game and put them to the test to find out what is really going on. Now recently I got sent a video from someone in the Minecraft community who claimed that they found a way to double the amount of diamond ore that you could get when you go branch mining. Now the idea is that if you mine between two chunks, then you're going to be able to get twice the amount of diamond ore. We did a very crude test of this on my latest episode of Hermitcraft and we didn't get many diamonds at all. So I decided, hey, what we need to do is a proper large scale test, which is what we're going to be doing in this video. So first of all, let me explain exactly what a chunk is. It's a part of the world that the game generates and it uses chunks to load and save the world as well. Now a chunk is 16 blocks across and 16 blocks deep, and it's at the bottom 16 blocks of your world, which is a part of the chunk, that you'll be able to find diamond ore. Now when chunks are generated into the world, they also distribute the ore into the chunk at the same time. That's what the game code does, that's a known thing. However, this could be interpreted in many ways depending on what the game code says it actually does. It could just so be that when it creates the ores, it puts them all in the middle of the chunk and the best place to go mining is in the middle of the one. Or it could be that it distributes it at the edges and therefore going between two of them is the best way to get lots of diamonds. Now I don't know the exact way that it chooses to do this, but this is why we're going to do some extensive testing and find out. So the idea is if you're mining between two chunks, then you're going to be able to expose twice as much diamond ore. And already when I made this little texture right here, it started to feel a little bit odd because you're going to be mining 2 blocks and seeing an additional 4 blocks on this side over here, and you're only going to be seeing 2 blocks from the other side. So that's 6 to 2, which to me doesn't say double, but there you go, that's exactly why we're doing these tests, to figure these things out. So I've devised a large scale test which is going to involve using MCEdit to analyze a world that we're going to create. This world is going to have a grid of 16 by 16 chunks. It's actually going to be 17 by 17 now that I think about it, because we will need to go in between two chunks, which we can't do with a 16 by 16 grid. Anyway, let me explain what this is over here. We're going to be doing 4 different tests. We're going to do 2 different types twice, and the 2 types are the orange and blue right here. So the blue test is where we go down the middle of a chunk, so it's 4 blocks across in the very middle, 16 blocks tall, and we're going to analyze that from one side of this grid all the way over to the other, and we're going to repeat that 16 times. Now the other test, the orange one, is where we do 2 rows of blocks on one side and 2 on the other. So basically we're taking a little bit from each and we're going down the middle of a chunk border, and once again we're going to go from one side to the other and we're going to repeat that 16 times. Now the other 2 tests are where we simply do that in the other direction. So we're doing some in this direction and some in that direction. The reason why is that in Minecraft sometimes there are biases towards what direction you're facing or how something interacts in the world, and so I thought it'd be a good idea to do those in both directions. So what we're going to do now is go over to MCEdit and I'm going to show you how I do all of this analyzing. So here we are in the wonderful MCEdit. What I did is created a world and then pruned the chunks, so now we have this 17 by 17 chunk grid. Let's pop back to the camera view. And what I've done is I've highlighted the chunks over the edge here. This is just so that we can see where they start and end. So if you have a look at the numbers here, this thing is 4 blocks across, it's 16 blocks tall, and then it goes back all the way across those 17 chunks to the very end at the other side. Then what we can do is hit analyze on the left side and we can see all of the diamonds that are in here. So in this one right here we have 23, and what I'm going to do is go through all of these and take note of the numbers of all the different types of ores, and then we're going to nudge this box across by 16 blocks to the next bit and then analyze this one and repeat. And of course once we finish that test we'll do the same thing going in the other direction, and of course the other test we're doing as well is to put this in the middle. So if we go across by 8 blocks, and that was 8, then we're in the very middle, and we're going to analyze this, write down all of these numbers, and then go across by 16 to the middle of the next one and repeat it all over again. So that's how I'm going to be doing the test. I'm now going to gather all of those numbers and we'll take a look at the results when I've done that. So the results are in. In this row we have the east and the west. In this one the north and the south, and then a combined total at the end. So the top row is our center of the chunk, that's mining through the middle, and the bottom one is the border, that's mining between 2 chunks. So we have 259, 310 for a combined total of 569, and going through the border it's 269, 230 for a combined total of 499. Now that is around a 12% increase, which sounds like quite a bit. The problem here is that despite thinking that the test size was relatively big, it might have not been big enough, and I'll give you an extreme example here. Let's say that a diamond ore spawns in groups of 50, and this one just happens to get the extra roll of a dice and gets an additional 50, then all of a sudden it looks like it's got quite a bit more. Now that's not the case with this right here, but I do think what we want to do is one bigger final test to make sure about this one, which is of course what we will do. But before we jump to that, I would like to show you the other ores as well, as I didn't keep track of just the diamonds. I collected information on all of the different ores. So I took all of the numbers from the testing, compiled them into a graph chart, and this is the result. Now this would look like there isn't any sort of bias, that everything is pretty fair and consistent when it comes to putting the ores in different parts of the chunks. However, when we take the big numbers out of this chart and focus on the rarer ores, you can see that gold, lapis and diamond, all of them were found more frequently in the centre of the chunk than they were on the border, which is quite an interesting result. So we definitely need to do a larger scale test. So here we are in a brand new world. What we're going to be doing this time is simply flying in one direction for thousands upon thousands of blocks, and then open up the world in MCEdit, repeat the test just going in a single direction, analyze a massive strip of blocks, and that way we should come up with a larger sample of numbers to look at than we did before. So I'm going to just fly for a long time, and of course I'll bring you back when we got the results. So this test was 4 times bigger than the last one, and across a strip of 16,000 blocks I analysed a segment like this in the middle, and then one across the chunk borders. And as well as that, I also analysed the shape of a branch mine like this, and I did that at Y10 in the chunk border and also in the centre of a chunk as well, and I've got the results over here. So the big segment, the first one I talked about, that was over 1 million blocks analysed, 951 diamonds in the centre, 917 on the chunk border, and then for the 131,000 that made up the branch mine, we had 182 in the chunk centre and 174 on the border. So once again we've ended up with slightly less diamonds on the border as opposed to the centre of the chunks. However, when it came to the gold and the lapis, this time the numbers are pretty much the same on all 4 sets of tests here. So I think the conclusion is that no, you cannot double your ores by mining on the chunk borders. In fact, it's going to make pretty much no difference at all. If any difference, it might be a little bit less. And that's the conclusion that I'm going to end on for this episode of Myth Busting. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. It is always appreciated when you show your support. And be sure to check out the Minecraft Myth Busting playlist if you haven't seen this series before. Tons and tons of useful information for you down there. But anyway, that's it from me this episode. As always, thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.